Fabian Hurzeler's Brighton looks like a joke when we see them playing an absurdly high backline, which is suicidal in the Premier League. Their out-of-position structure is even more varied, with adventurously aggressive man marking all over the ball near zone during the opposition build-up, aiming to force deadly turnovers with their dribbling wingers. A closer look shows that Brighton uses a typical two-man press ahead of a narrow second line, which marks the opposition centre player using the centre midfielder and both their wingers tucked into the half space to deny interior passing options. If the opposition tries to use the flanks to progress, the press is backed by fullbacks jamming on wide players and even the centre back following a dropping player in the half space. The whole press is bypassed at the moment, and Brighton is willing to play a 1v1 in the middle against the opposition striker with ample space for strikers to run into. The ridiculous bravery to play this kind of man marking against a team that uses a winger type player in the midfield and a speedy winger on the flanks isn't something we used to see every day. The situation escalated to a 1v1 against the isolated centre back in the edge of the box and a shot on goal. But Brighton isn't ready to change for the opposition. They continued the use of the front two, aiming to lock the opposition to one side by closing the diagonal passing options using the pivots. The wide players will then aggressively close down the ball carrier, entering the trap to force turnovers. This particular moment seems as a blunder as runners run to close down the keeper will open up the whole right channel for the opposition. Brighton maintained their shape in keeping the central options marked and Rutter followed the pass to close down the free centre back to deny further progression. After a couple of passes, an opposition tried to manipulate Brighton. They kept the centre tight while maintaining pressure on the ball carrier. The backline is high and the distance between lines are too short for the opposition to equip. The striker moved from his position to close the free midfielder, and since the opposition played it back to exploit the disruption in Brighton's shape, the centre midfielder jumped from his position to follow the potential ball receiver who dropped towards the space. This was a risk Brighton took to keep everyone under control, and it was balanced by attacking midfielder Rutters dropping to equip the position of midfielder who jumped. Opposition switched again, hoping Rutter will sit deep to protect the half space, but he had a different idea. Rutters did not want to let the ball carrier dictate the play from space, so he closed him down on the pass while the right back covered the half space. Also note the striker's movement to the space vacated by Rutter's jump towards the ball. This inherent understanding of spatial occupation is what makes this risky man marking approach rewarding at times. This made the ball carrier out of options and Rutter forced a turnover. Brighton risked everything to play their style of football, which focuses on closing the ball near zone with strict man-to-man marking. This zonal man marking is often solved by opposition switching sides. The pressing shape is manipulated by keeping the ball central and deep, asking forwards questions on whether to stay in shape or run towards the ball. The aggressive nature often moves the Brighton press towards the ball at an angle intended to force opposition to wide pressing traps. Good technical players can manipulate these movements to find gaps between the press. Brighton won't give up in such situations as they commit their aggressive centre back to follow the ball carrier, which is a high risk, high reward strategy. A quick combination move can put the entire backline in trouble with a huge gap in the middle from the earlier movement of the centre back. Adding to it, the line is already high, affording space for runners. Whenever the centre back follows players, a simple pass behind the midfield line is enough to exploit the Brighton approach. From here, there is a total shape disruption with backline tracking back in survival mode, deadly forwards attacking their box while the defense is without a centre back. This is pure chaos and the centre midfielder has to compensate for the absence of centre back, conceding space in front of the defense for the opposition attacking midfielder to score. However, the players stick on to this style and it rewards them more than they get punished. In this sequence, the pressing shape is the normal one with a two-man front line. Each player covers a specific area in the opposition half. It isn't just straight player-oriented approach. The ball near forward is expected to press the ball carrier with the other forward angling his movement behind him to close the diagonal option. The pivots cover the vertical area in front of them. Any player behind the first line in their assigned vertical lane is followed by the pivots, leaving their deep positions in the midfield. When a player drops the half space, it is the wide player coming inside to press the dropper, which is the common pressing pattern. Instead, winger stays in his channel and the pivot, as said earlier, follows the half space option. On the far side, it is a typical shape with the winger taking inside. We can see a compact narrow block here, which can be obviously stretched if the ball is moved horizontally. The centre back baits the pressure to stretch the pressing shape. This often draws the whole block towards the ball in high press teams, leaving space between the lines. This is where the aggressive nature of centre backs comes into action as the area is swept by them jumping upon any free player. If it wasn't for the centre back, the free player would be driving at the heart of Brighton defense. The compact nature means they afford space on the flanks, but this is something they are forcing opponents to do. They are fully committed to go to any extent to be compact and stop center progression. Teams like Man United have issues on this compactness as the distance between the lines are too big and thus easy to exploit. For Brighton, their brave but sometimes ridiculous approach at least has the backing of the whole team. Even when the forward has the ability to cover shadow the interior player, the midfielder ensures no pass is played through the middle as he jumps upon the potential receiver in the middle. The backline backs these movements as they move up to make the distance between the lines almost non-existent. Every player is covered from the front and marked from the behind. It's a double safety lock in the middle. But this certainly has the issue of conceding space wide, and Brighton is happy to track back and defend their box as a unit in such wide progression scenarios. There are imperfect systems in football, as humans play the game and they are prone to errors. What Hurzeler is trying to play is an error prone football, but with full commitment from players who embrace those risks and face the consequences of their belief in the system without moving away from the team philosophy. They aren't acting like a perfect tactical machine, but plays the beautiful game ready for their own blunders.